I'm taking you on a tour of an old office space. And actually, this was an office that I was in over the summer. And I got the impression that they were on summer break or they had remodeled or were in the process of remodeling. And people were probably just working from home. So I got a chance to see inside of what an old office looked like. You can see all the neutrals and the dark woods. But what I was doing is testing out my phone camera. So I'm taking a lot of the same shots from different angles and seeing how it adjusts the lighting and the focus. And there we found a broom. All right. That's handy to have, but this is carpet. So there's going to be minimal editing to this because I want you to experience this space as I'm walking through it. I'm discovering it along the way just like you would be in real life. So outside, there's a parking lot. And there's some cars there. When we get further along in the office, I'll actually have some more outside views. So you get to see some of that. And I'll talk a little bit more about what I figured out about the business later in the video. I don't want to distract too much here. This is really the experience of seeing through the entire space without anybody else there. And see how quiet it was? I mean, it was just, that's that. You're hearing the natural sound recording just with my voice added. And this is a little bit like a maze or a jigsaw puzzle because I'm trying to figure out which direction to go in. And as I mentioned before, there was some remodeling. So there are some fixtures kind of left around. The bathrooms were in the hallway. And that was maybe my first clue that there was something other than just like a simple update that was going to happen because the bathroom fixtures were inside of the interior office space where they didn't belong. And I don't know why, but I'm sure the contractors came along and figured out what to do with it and disposed of everything. And you can see there were a few chairs, not all. And what else? So you're seeing how the light is really bright outside those windows. You can see a little bit of dust there. And it's actually dark inside, but the camera does a really good job, I think. And this is a phone, but I think it did a really good job of picking up the interior shots, even though there really wasn't any light. I mean, very minimal, just those exit signs. And here we go. So here's the break room, and we can kind of see around, even though it's dark. We'll get a better view later on. I know I came back to look at that space again. Oh, wait, actually, maybe that wasn't the break room. I think this is the break room. One of these rooms is the break room, I think. Just an area, you can make coffee or microwave your lunch, whatever. I don't think people really went in there to relax. And that was the other thing that was so strange to me was how small these workstations were. And I've worked in a corporate office in the past, so I'm sure I've worked in this kind of tight space, but just being there by myself, it did seem really, really limited, and I've got the whole place to myself, but I'm just saying the space, the size of these desk tables, that just seemed really tight to have somebody working there. So I'm not sure what that was, how those were arranged, like who sat where, or if they were just open for, people to drop in and plug in. I couldn't quite figure it out. And so, yeah, getting a lot of really good light just from the ambient light and the outside windows. But there are overhead lights that are not turned on, but we will get there. It may look like these lights are on. They're not. That's how bright it was. And you can see on the tabletops, the surfaces, they're dusty. You can tell that. Even through the window shades, you get a really good view, I think. And the paint is kind of a beige, and those top ledges are like a dark simulated wood, a synthetic, a veneer, a laminate. But it's like a dark cherry, is what most people would think of. the window is kind of a burnt orange color. So I'm just sort of describing this so you get a perspective of what it looks like on my screen and what I remember from being in the space, in case it doesn't look as detailed. But this is looking really sharp to me. At some of the different angles, I'm putting my phone right against the glass, and so I'm just cutting out any unnecessary glare so you don't have to strain through that. But everything else you're seeing here, I'm just walking around and exploring. And so let's look, because I'm going to actually explore all of this space. And I'm also, like I said, I was testing out my phone camera. So I'm trying to get basically the same area from different angles to see if the autofocus works, how the light adjustment works. And this was the perfect test run because there really wasn't any, there weren't any people there where it would like focus on the wrong thing. So the phone's doing a very good job, I think, of keeping up. I was surprised at the quality of this. I didn't think any of it would be usable. But when I rewatched it, I was like, this is actually a pretty good exploration piece, and I think somebody would enjoy watching it. So I'm glad you found it. Now let's keep going through. We're about to get to the next corner office and see how small that desk space is. That's why this is such a funny layout. It's like, okay, and look at the view outside though. The landscaping was gorgeous. You can see the cars and the trees and the flowers. And you can also see, you can see a little bit of detail and dirt there on the window. Apologize for any glare shots that I didn't fully edit out, but there weren't that many of them. Across the street, I think, is a post office. Just to kind of give you a sense of scale, this is this is larger than a post office would be. And this is about half of the office building. It's about half of the floor. Opposite, there was an open business that wasn't remodeling. They had people working in the space. So, that might also be why it's so quiet, because this would have been during business hours. So really no construction noise. And this time I think I find the light. Okay, there we go. So now you're seeing the space lit. It's actually, so about half of these overhead lights outside are now on. I don't know what controlled the other half, but I could see pretty well with no lights just from the outside light. And now that I've got the overhead on, you're getting a better sense, I hope, of the color, the different color tones, the wood grain, the doors. That would be probably a veneer, which would be real wood, plank. Okay. I found these. I don't know what they were planning on doing with them, and they don't belong there. So I imagine the contractors just came along and disposed of those when they were doing the construction work. That hole in the wall was there. I didn't make that. I don't know what happened. Okay, so counters are a little dusty, but I want to look through these drawers and underneath in the cabinets to see if I find any more clues. But spoiler, we're going to find some things, but really nothing specific to this space, like letting you know the address or anything like that. Okay. Can you see the textured carpet? It's kind of like a grid. Okay, women's restroom. All right. That obviously doesn't belong there. And this office was really well cleaned out. Very few things were left. And I mean, somebody obviously knew that they were going to be doing the remodel. So they removed everything. They removed all the paperwork and just anything that the business would have had there for its normal operations had been relocated or stored. And they did a good job of getting everything out of there. A few little extras, so don't want to spoil the surprise. And since I was so there was like some paint cans on that shelf. Since I was like exploring this, I didn't really have a good route mapped out that I thought would be interesting. This is just extra footage. And since I realized it was good quality, I wanted somebody to be able to see this, kind of experience it along the way as I did. Okay, so now here we found cleaning supplies, and then in the corner there, that vase, I don't know if you can tell, I recognized it being from a Pier 1 store, and it's made out of recycled glass, so it's not a it was obvious to me. It wasn't like off an assembly, like new glass. It was recycled, imported from Mexico, I think. These are just some condiments that somebody left, and every office seems to have that drawer that just gets condiments put in it. Okay, anything else? I mean, really, it's fun to watch, but there's not really much backstory that I can tell about this place because I really am not familiar with it. Just happened to be in the building that day. The door was open. It's business hours. And so I thought I'd take a walk around with my camera and let's look. Okay. I'm going to turn off the light, I think, again, and we'll see what the adjustment is on the screen here. Okay, so this was one of those old-fashioned opposite switches where there would be one on one side and one on the other, and one would turn it on, and if that one was up, then the other one, when you flipped it, would turn it off, and vice versa. The other one... Oh, now look at how this decor compares. So this is more modern, and this is like the common area, so that would have been more current. And then once you're inside this office area, this would have been, like I said, I think this decor to me looks dated. It looks maybe about eight, maybe 10 years before I was shooting this. So I hope you enjoyed this. It was fun to watch, and let me know what you thought of this tour.